Welcome to Chiropad TV. This is Dr. Paul Bindell, President of Life Systems Software. It is with great pleasure that we provide you with this segment of our video training series for the ChiroSuite program. This presentation is going to focus on the diagnostic imaging report. First, make sure that Chiropad is open and select a patient. Double-click on that patient's name and that opens their account. Then come to the Exams button, click on it, and then click on Diagnostic Imaging. The first step, the very first time you use this report, is to set preferences which will apply to all reports in the future. Come to the Preferences button in the upper right corner of the screen and click on it. The first choice you have is for the type of exam which will be your default. In your own office, it is most likely going to be X-ray. However, you also have the opportunity to choose here ultrasound, thermography, MRI, Doppler, or CT scanning as the default type of exam. Note that within the individual patient file, you will be able to change the exam type whenever you need to, without it affecting the default. As far as the facility is concerned, this is where the diagnostic imaging examination was performed. If it was in your own office, then you choose that. If it was in an imaging center that you have entered into the catalog, it will appear on this list. The prescribing doctor will automatically default to the doctor of record for this patient. However, if there is another provider in the office, you will be able to choose that provider. In addition, this list will also include all the referring physicians that you have entered in the referring physicians catalog. As part of the reporting system, you have the opportunity to include the entire report or only very specific sections of the report within your SOAP note. If you choose all 4 items, then the system is going to tell you that this means you're selecting the entire report, and it will automatically reset to the option for entire report. Once you have made your entries in this little preferences screen, click on the Save button. The next area to be sure is completed is the Diagnostic Imaging Catalog. Click on Tools, Catalogs, and choose Diagnostic Imaging Centers. In order to enter a new imaging center in this catalog, click on the green starburst, give it an ID, type in the name of that particular imaging center. If there is an individual that you contact all the time at that imaging center, fill in that person's name. Also enter their phone and fax number, address, city, state, and zip code. In the Notes section, type in anything you want. These notes are for reference within your own office and do not show up anyplace else. In other words, this information is strictly for you and your staff. If you know the email and website addresses for this particular imaging center, enter them in the spaces provided. When you have completed all the entries that you need to do, then simply click on the Save icon and make sure that everything has been saved. After you have entered an imaging center in the system, should you choose to look it up, to edit it, or to change any of the information, click on the binoculars, and then you will be able to find that imaging center by either typing into the Find field whatever you want, and then click on the Find button, or you would be able to click on All, or any letter of the alphabet, and that will bring up the appropriate selections. Once it is on the screen, you can double-click on it, and it will open you up to the specific imaging center that you are looking for. When you're finished on this screen, if you've made any changes, be sure you click on the Save icon, and then you can leave the screen by clicking on the white X that's on the red background. We are now ready to proceed within the imaging report itself. First of all, make sure that you are in the proper patient's file, and then click on the green starburst to create a new report. After you have clicked on the green starburst, the current date will automatically fill in. Should it be necessary to change this date, click on the little editing pencil to the right of the date field, change the date by either typing in or double-clicking on that space, bring up the calendar, and select the actual date of that examination. Then click on the editing pencil once again. Verify that the exam type is in agreement with what you had set in the default. If it is not, simply click on the drop-down arrow and choose the exam type that is correct. For the facility where this particular diagnostic imaging examination was performed, if it is correct with what you set as the default, leave it alone. However, if it was done someplace else, click on the drop-down arrow, and as long as you had entered the information in the diagnostic imaging catalog, you would be able to then select that other facility and put it into this particular box. The prescribing doctor will default to the one that you chose in Preferences. However, should you need to, you can click on the drop-down arrow and choose another provider. This list will include all the doctors in your own office, as well as all the doctors listed in your referring physician's catalog. In order to proceed, you must select a region of the body that was examined. Click on the drop-down arrow, and you can choose regions of the body individually, or if there is a combination area, scroll down and you could choose full spine, a combination of cervical thoracic, thoracic and lumbar, or cervical thoracic and lumbar. Once you have selected a region, then you will be able to select the views that apply to this particular patient. All you need to do is click on each particular view that was taken, and that will automatically allow you to now enter findings. In order to enter the findings, go down the list, find the item that is appropriate for what you need, click on it, and then you will be able to enter a wealth of additional information. Once you have selected the views, before you go on to other specific findings, check whether or not there are any anomalies that must be entered on the spine. For example, if C7 is absent and you put a check in the box for that, it removes C7 from the spine. If C7 and C8 are both selected, since they are mutually exclusive, each one will cancel out the other and add in the appropriate area to the spine. So for each selection that says that the anomaly is a vertebrae that is absent, it will take that vertebrae off the spine, and for each extra vertebrae that is listed, it will add that vertebrae in. If there are no anomalies, obviously do not check the anomalies box. The next thing to do is come to the findings list, go down the list of findings, and select the item that applies. For example, with vertebral subluxation, you would then come to the spine and click on the vertebrae that is subluxated. If there is more than one vertebrae that is subluxated, be sure that you push and hold down the Control key on your keyboard while you click on the other subluxations that are present. This will allow all of them to appear on the list. Then go to the next finding, and you can note severity and its extended detail, as well as its location. If there is a scoliosis with multiple curves, choose Scoliosis 1, note its severity, and note its location, and then note also, does it have a left or right convexity? For Scoliosis 2, fill that in, once again noting its severity and where it is located. And if there is a third curve in the spine, note that as well, and also its severity and the extended detail. You can then proceed through each of the findings, entering whatever you need to, and putting in the severity, the locations, and the extended detail that is appropriate to that finding. You would then, when you're finished entering the finding, come to the measurement. If you have measured George's line, put a check in the box next to it, and then click on the drop-down arrow and note whether it is broken or unbroken. Unbroken is normal, and there would be nothing else to do. If it is broken, note that the spine will change colors when you click on the Levels button, and then you will be able to highlight each of the areas of the spine by clicking on the top vertebrae where George's line is broken and dragging the mouse down while holding the left mouse button down to the level that it ends at. If it is broken in non-continuous areas, then after you've entered the first one, hold down the Control key, go to the second area, and enter it as well. Once you have completed the findings for George's line, move on to the cervical curve angle. Simply put a check in the box, and then click into the space next to degrees, and type in the number of degrees that is present. For the physiological stress lines, if they are normal, just click that. If they are abnormal, then enter an intersection point by clicking into this box and typing in the point at which the physiological stress lines intersect. For the cervical flexion extension range of motion, put a check in that box if it is present, and then type in the degrees of movement. For Ferguson's sacral base angle, once again, click on it, and then click on degrees, and type in whatever the number happens to be. For the L3 gravitational plumb line, that is present, then put a check on the box, click on the drop-down arrow. If it is abnormal, select that, and then put in either millimeters, centimeters, or inches the distance that it is away from the sacral base. And also note if that distance is anterior or posterior of the anterior tip of the sacrum. As a final step in completing the X-ray information, you have an area for additional notes. You would click into this space, and then you would type in whatever you want. After all the entries have been made, click on the Save icon, and that will generate your report. At this point, you would be able to scroll through each section of the report, make sure that it says what you want it to say, make any changes that are necessary, and then after making any changes or additions, you would click on Save Changes, and that has now saved the report. At this point, should you wish to view the report again, you would be able to click on the Prior tab, and it will be listed based upon the report date that you entered at the beginning. You will be able to see the entire report. After the report has been generated, the only way to make additions or changes is to click on the button for Make Addendum. When you click on this, it will verify that you want to make an addendum to this specific report, and also it will remind you that once an addendum is made to the report, it cannot be removed or edited. Are you sure you want to do that? Once you say yes, then it will verify the date that you're making the addendum, which report it is being submitted onto, who is making the entry, who was the doctor that originally made the entries for the report, and then you would type in whatever additional information there is that you wanted to place here. Should you select to, you have the ability to also enter a reason for making this specific addendum. It could be as simple as was interrupted during initial report evaluation, or anything else that would be appropriate. Once you make the entries, you would click on Save, and the addendums will show up at the bottom of the screen. If you want to print the diagnostic imaging report by itself, all you need to do is click on the print icon. Once you have completed the diagnostic imaging report and you create a SOAP note for today's visit with the patient, the information from that report is going to show up in today's SOAP note. It will be added on after plan, and if you chose entire report, then it will all be there. If you limited it to specific sections, the only sections that will show up are those that you have selected. Once you have completed the entries, be sure you click on the next icon so that you will close out of the patient. The next area that we need to go into regarding this report is the customizations. Click on Tools, Customize, expand Chiropad, and then come down to the Diagnostic Imaging Report DIR findings. On this list, these are all the findings that will show up in the findings section of the Diagnostic Imaging Report. If there is anything here that you do not like, you would be able to click on that specific item and then click on Edit Item, and if you make it inactive, it will no longer appear on the list. To make it inactive, simply put a check in the box next to inactive and click on Save. If there is something on this list that is very similar to an item that you would like to have, but the item you want is not here, then simply click on that item that is similar and then click on Clone Item. You will then need to create a new mnemonic for the new item. You would indicate the verbiage type. If it's related to the spine, then you can select individual, such as with subluxations. If it applies to a range, similar to a scoliosis. If it is something that can appear only on the left or only on the right. Or if it is a non-spinal finding. You would then also select a title for that particular item, and you would put a check in the box next to each region of the body that is affected. If it applies to all areas, put a check in the box that says Apply to all regions, and that will automatically put a check in every box. For the extended detail, click on the drop-down arrow and select the type of extended detail that would apply to this specific finding. When you are finished, click on Save, and that will save that new item. If you want to edit any of the items that are here by changing their names, click on Edit Item. You could change the verbiage type, the name or the title, the regions that are affected, and the type of extended detail that applies to this specific area. Once you have made your changes, click on Save, and then you will be able to move on to the next area. When you click on Customize Verbiage Templates, you will see how the verbiage templates are put together. There are several different types of verbiage templates depending upon which type of finding or measurement or anomaly is being discussed. Once you have chosen something, you are then able to give it a statistical weight. This means that for this particular item, if you choose a statistical weight of 100, it will show up very frequently. If you chose a second item and you chose a weight of 100, then in effect those two items will show up 50% of the time. If you had chosen 100 for one of them and only the number 1 for the other, then for every 100 times that the first one would show up, the second one would show up only once. In other words, if you want something to be used frequently, set the statistical weight higher. The system default is automatically at 100. Should you desire to create a new template, click on the green starburst, and that will blank the verbiage template area. Click into that area and start to type whatever you need to. Then as you're typing, click on the drop-down arrow to select the merge field. And for each merge field, you would be able to just click on it and then click on Insert, and it will put it where you want it to be. And then you would be able to select the next item and click on it, and then click on Insert and put it in its place, so that you would be able to create your own templates to whatever extent you want. Once you have created a template and you want to test and see what it would look like, simply come down to the verbiage template test area, click on Generate, and it will show you two variations of the template that you have just created. Once you have completed your creation, click on the Save icon so that you will be 100% sure that it has been saved and will be usable as a selection in the future. As we come back to the Customize Findings screen, you will also note that there is a button for extended detail sets. When you click on this button, this will allow you to create a new detail set, and for each detail set you have the ability to enter 5 different details or items. You are able to add to and delete from these lists of extended detail sets. Once you have entered whatever changes you're going to make or any additions, be sure you click on the Save icon and then close the screen. Also, for each finding, there is a Synonyms button. By clicking on that, you will be able to see the name of the item, and you'll be able to scroll through the various synonyms that are present for it. When you reach the last one, it will tell you that you've reached the last one, and if you want to add something new, just click Yes. It will give you a blank screen, and you will be able to then type in whatever you want. After you have typed in the additional synonym, click on the Save icon, and then you'd be able to repeat the process to add in more. The statistical weight, once again, the higher the weight, the more frequently this particular synonym will be used, as it relates to all the other synonyms on the list. If every synonym in the system is set at 100, then the system will automatically choose the one that has been used the least. When you're finished, click on Save, and then we leave the screen. In the event that you have made several findings inactive and you would like to see them, you just need to click on the button that says Show Inactive, and all of the things that you had made inactive will appear on the list. You would then be able to go down the list, choose the item that you had made inactive before, click on Edit Item, and uncheck Inactive, and click on Save, and it will be once again fully functional within the system. As you can see, the diagnostic imaging report is thorough, and it allows you to modify it in whatever way you would choose to. Thank you for watching this training video. Should you have additional questions that were not answered here, please contact support@chiropad.com or call us at 973-625-3716. We will do everything we can to make sure that you get the maximum benefit from using the ChiroSuite program.